Today I kind of want to talk about how much do I spend coding. There are many things that can go into the amount of time I spend on coding. For example, it can depend on the project that I'm currently working on, the team dynamic, or something even like, oh, am I in between projects? Am I in between promotions? All these can influence how much coding I'm actually doing. For example, at the beginning of this year, I spent a lot of times outside of coding. We were planning about the roadmaps, trying to come up with ways, objectives that we want to achieve for this upcoming half. And there has been a lot of brainstorm sessions, a lot of discussions. So as you can tell, like it's a lot of meeting-centric focus. And there weren't a lot of coding, and most of the coding were about improving existing systems and how we can improve the system to use a better coding structure of such. I would say I spent maybe about 10 to 20% of the time coding, and the rest of the time is about attending these meetings, writing design docs, writing project requirements, and then make new proposals, discussing with other engineers on scope finding. Because a lot of times what happens as you move away from this entry level role into more junior, senior level role is the fact that the team, the company expects you to drive directions. They expect you to be able to find new projects, new fields that can have a very high impact. So a lot of these burdens fall on your shoulder, and you have to make sure to align correctly with the PM counterparts, the UX teams, and try to figure out what are the key priorities for this half. And hopefully, after 1 to 2 weeks of discussion at the beginning of the year, the roadmap is a lot more clear for this upcoming. Of course, this whole process is actually very unique to my current team. But some of the other projects I have worked on, many of these roadmaps were even planned at a very senior level, the VPs, the director level, and it's not necessarily bottom up. It's more so top down, and we kind of already know the roadmap of what it's going to be before the year end. So this is definitely very different from company. So many other company may not have this. For me personally, I'm okay with coding a lot of times, but I also want to have a balance. So this is how I normally approach my day-to-day. I have a clear goal in mind. For example, what do I want to accomplish this year? Am I aiming for a promotion? If so, then how do I get there? I try to set up these type of expectations ahead of time with my managers. Am I going for a really high rating? Am I going for a promotion? And depending on that, I really want to know like how many projects I might need to take on, or what's a reasonable amount of time to finish certain things. And this will set me up. For example, I remember vividly when I was trying to go for my first promotion, I had to spend a lot of time on coding. At the time, it was mostly like 80% just coding, and then the rest is either improving design docs or attending the typical weekly meetings. And outside of that, I'm spending even more time on coding outside of the typical 40 hours a week, just because I want to make sure the project is delivered as fast as possible so I can take on even more work. So at the time, that was definitely a very stressful experiences, and I wouldn't say it's extremely sustainable. A lot of times after you reach the mid-level, senior level roles, in order to get to the next level, it's no longer just about doing things that's like, very fast, very efficient, but also working on high scope, high impact projects. And on top of that, a lot of times they do consider your tenure, how long you've been at your current position, and how long you've been performing at the next level. And I realized like a lot of these bigger tech companies, like they don't really want to rush you into getting promoted to anything beyond senior that's like very, very fast. So that's definitely something I noticed. So nowadays, I spend about 50% of my time on coding. So maybe 4 hours a day, I will just have a concentrated focus time where I try to write as much code as possible, try to improve the system, trying to write up test cases, or trying to implement new features. And the rest of the time, I spend code reviewing. So code review is actually a skill that's very, very important for a lot of software engineers to have. It gives you insight on what your team members are doing that you can learn from, but it also makes you think from a design perspective where you can help catch potential risk before it's submitted. So I would say code review is a very important process, and in order to become a very good software engineer, reviewing will be a very important skill to have. And many times that people don't realize is the fact that if you want to do a really good code review, a lot of times you do have to spend a lot of time on it because you may not have the necessary background. You may want to read up a little more, you might do some research, you really want to understand. And all these are typically equivalent to how much time I might spend on my own project. So when I review someone else's code, it might be taking up the same amount of time, if not more. And another thing that I want to talk about is on-call. And when you are on call, you have to spend a lot of times resolving issues that may require coding, but it might also just be time consuming because you have to verify, you have to test it, you have to see what might be the issue. And I do remember a lot of times that when you do see like a high priority item that's like being filed by the end user and it's a very critical fix, that you have to jump in and start coding and trying to identify the issue and try to push a fix. So as you can tell, it's like a P0, and it means like it needs immediate attention and you're really trying to figure it out. And you're already being stressed about maybe your own projects, but now if you're on call, you have to take on this additional burden, and that can really push someone to their limit. So I would say, sure, like that might be a 30 minutes of coding session, but the amount of energy that I had to use, it's definitely way more than what the 30 minutes might be for some other tasks that I might be doing. So I would say like not all minutes are equivalent in this case. Of course, not all software engineer role require coding. Some might require more, some might require less. And depending on the company, it can also vary. Sure, like as a software engineer, your job is write good quality code, but not everyone spends majority of the time coding. At these bigger tech companies, they really value a lot of these documentations because having a good design doc, having a good research, they believe that it will help software engineers save time down the line, because this way, like, you don't have to go back and forth. You have a clear focus, and that also takes a lot of time. So a lot of times you might be writing, but it may not be code. It might just be documentations. But yeah, I hope this video provides some sort of insight about like what you can typically expect. Please let me know how much you guys spend on coding at your job. I think this will be something that's definitely very useful and give people an idea of what type of work they can expect to do as a software engineer. So thank you so much guys for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you guys next time.